Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad. The week is starting to hit the backslide, so I'm happy.
Good. Yeah, it's an interesting day.
Yeah. It's I'll talk a little bit about what's going on with the VIX here. So hey, Doug.
And Tesla was up big time too.
Yeah. Kind of thinking that's like a funny joke that they're all playing.
I know, right?
Only it's not a very funny joke. It's like a sad joke. Okay, so yeah, I'll take a look at Tesla here, and I'll talk about the VIX and what's going on with that. Is there anything else you guys want me to cover?
Well, Tesla's good. I mean, looks like a short squeeze, but
yeah, a little bit. So hey, Susan. Yeah, it does look like a short squeeze for sure. So Susan, I was just asking if anybody, I was going to cover Tesla and VIX. Is there anything else that you would like to cover?
well, we've talked about the gas and oil and the metals, which look like they did roll over today. We'll see.
Yeah, I'll show those charts and I'll kind of talk through those a little bit. But feel free to stop me if it doesn't make sense, or if I'm just feel like if I'm not hitting the right points. If you guys have questions, sound good?
Sounds good.
Cool. All right. So I'll spend a little bit of time here just kind of going over what the indexes look like here. All right. So let's do the Nasdaq here real quick. Oh man, not that one. Okay. So this is what we showed last week. So what I was kind of thinking here was that this is like the top of wave 3, and it kind of was here. It's just it needed to be extended a little bit. So kind of what I think is going to happen here if we do see some sort of wave 4. Like, because right now it sort of looks like a wave 4, but it's like 3 of them. So what I'm really looking at here, so are these sort of things. So when you see these little like stab downs, let me go to an hour. There we go. So you see these little stab downs here. What that means to me is, like this this entire structure here looks like like it's called like an expanded flat, where it's, sorry, not an expanded flat. It's like a really rare sort of wave 4 kind of correction. So I'll start here, and then I'll kind of go into where I think it's going here, where you can kind of see like this kind of a weird irregular sort of thing. And in theory, you're supposed to see something kind of like this, where you have like a new low to like test that 50-day moving average, but we didn't see that. So this is the most rare, I think, wave 4 type of correction. So with that being said, I'm treating that as like the origin point for a 5-wave count. So what that means here is, like I think this is probably what we're going to see. Maybe some support around here. Let me draw the other lines too. And this is just to kind of set us up for, what might develop. So continuing on that bullish theme here, let me draw just another little thing. This is for all the folks watching at home. So this scenario, I think, is I'd say probably the most likely, considering like how bullish everything has been. Headed back down to that like 24,000 level, I think would be reasonable. And if we kind of zoom in down here, like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of support down here, but we also see like some support here with some of the higher side volume. Anything that's like a brighter color, that's like the That's like the 70% of the main range. So we see a huge, like a huge shelf down here, like this point of control being at this 23,400 level almost. And if I look at like the S&P, that level's at about that 6460. So I think as we were coming back up here, it was, what was that, like 6480 or whatever was that point of control that we had been talking about a lot, or it was maybe a little bit further down. But anyways, the long story short about it here is that I'm kind of thinking that we'll have some sort of pullback here to like the 6550 level, like before we had that, that big volume stab there with the Fed day. And in my opinion, that was kind of like the wave 4 of the larger wave 3. So to kind of zoom out, this is what I was referring to. So if we had this, this big wave 1 down here, this is kind of like the final 5th wave. It actually makes sense and it fits pretty well. The one thing that you typically will see, what I was looking for today was, if I get this line here, so it kind of aligns with that support that we saw. So like this, this 24, I rounded up to 24,400. Why not? But that's the kind of level that had a lot of that support. And if you look at like the S&P, it was right around that 6620 level that I was talking about this morning. So that was pretty close, I think. But I still don't think it's done, if that makes sense. What I think is most likely to happen here is, we saw this like, hey, Mr. Nelson, we saw something kind of, not, I mean, there was some volume there, but not a lot of like crazy buy up volume. The bears kind of kept the lid on it pretty good today. So if we do see some sort of retracement kind of like this, I do think that you'll see a longer sort of sea leg that will manifest itself to the sell side here. So right around this like 2400, I think would be a reasonable level for like a wave 4 low. And if I draw some fibs on this thing, yeah, okay, not bad for freehand, but not that close. So this is kind of what I would consider. So something kind of like this would be like your wave 4. I kind of have a feeling though that like, yeah, we do have this level of support here. And I think this might be tested maybe like tomorrow morning or something. But that might be it for a while. And then I think you might see again this little jump up, and then maybe like a push down, but you can see a little bit of an extension. Just because like, you typically when you see like an ABC, I think sorry, hold on, let me make sure I get this crystal clear here for you. So before I talk about anything else, this is really like the kind of the bullish scenario where you hit that little bit of lower low, but not quite where we had that low with the Fed. We could get an extension where we could see it test that 2400 level and then ultimately bounce up here. But what I'm thinking is that this wave 5 is pretty much done. Or sorry, not the 5 wave, this wave 3. So of the larger, like of the larger sort of, the larger sort of pattern here. Now, I mean, this is also kind of speculative too, because we're going into October and there's not a lot going on really until the end of like the 9/30 expiration date. So when we're looking at something like this, my original thought is, this could also be a larger wave 4. So instead of having this long-term, like the bigger 5 wave sort of setup, maybe this is your wave 4, and you can have like a truncated ABC, that kind of thing, and then this is your final 5 wave up. So what we could see here for the secondary scenario, which is more of the bear scenario, is this is potentially the start of I'll start out with the ABC scenario, but that's where I think you could see something like this where you get a reasonably high retrace, or maybe not that much, but you can still get some sort of like head and shoulders type of pattern. You might even see something maybe like this, And if we do see some sort of breach of this like 2400 level, so something kind of like this, then in my I guess my thoughts on the matter are, then we're definitely going to test that the 50-day moving average. And it's really just kind of like, it kind of depends on how far it falls, I guess, and the speed of it. So if it's just a steady kind of grindy, a little bit back and forth, but net down, I guess, like that's kind of not, has like conviction for me. So I can't really put a lot of stock into that, or stock in a situation like this. So if it keeps doing like the lazy selling sort of thing here, then I'm still thinking that we probably have another leg up to go here. But I, like something like 25,000 here would be, I'd say probably pretty reasonable for the Nasdaq. For the S&P though, I'm kind of thinking that this is probably toast, just because you see this rejection off the 6,700, and there's not a lot of like gamma that's on the books right now that you can see, where people are really rushing in to buy, that kind of thing. So just kind of going back to the Nasdaq here. So the bearish scenario that I'm thinking here that might be realistic is if we take all this stuff out of here. So let's assume that this this is the 5 wave and it's done, that kind of thing. What I was looking for today was this sort of trend line, test, and you did start to see some volume there, but I still think that bears want another crack at it, that kind of thing. Like if they let them retrace it high tonight, then it's just another little wave 2 or wave 4, that kind of thing. But I don't really know if that's the case. I think that we are finally starting to see a little bit of selling now that we've had some major levels hit. I mean, if you think about it, the S&P's here at 6640 when it was just at almost 6,700 just a couple short days ago. So I think probably what we can expect is the first scenario is like this sort of ABC. Let me zoom in here for you. So now that we've had such a crazy rally here again, I do see a lot of these like 5 wave counts, and I think Alex mentioned this as well, where we're kind of thinking like, okay, this has got to be the 5th wave, like this got to be it. Well, it keeps remaining invalidated to be anything bearish. So what I'm looking for really is that continuation. I think I mentioned something like that in discussion today. We're just saying, I need to see, like I want to wake up tomorrow and see prices like right there. It's just a big bull trap, and everybody's got a cover, that kind of thing. Bears are out. I think that would be like a good confirmation that it's selling season now. But if it's just this kind of gradual selling, I don't know if these guys are really in a rush because prices are really high. So they're selling in a strength here, and that'll eventually wear the bulls down. So this ABC scenario is probably the weaker of the 2 bearish scenarios. This one is more of like a, like I mentioned before, that kind of like it's still bearish, like a wave 4, but in a larger, like a longer term bullish structure. So you could still make some decent cash on a pullback and still get a good, entry for, like a wave 5 kind of sprint up. But that's where we got to be a little bit careful and not just assume that this is a wave 4. And that's where some of these levels where we see pivots, that's where it's going to be important to pay attention to that stuff. And that's, I guess it's really my job, but you guys can help, just keep an eye on stuff like that. So yeah, long story short here is that this ABC is like a standard normal, wave 4 type of correction. We could even see some sort of flat or whatever, something lame like this, where, you could see, I think I had it like this before. So you could see, maybe like fool everybody where there's like a slightly higher or something. And then you could see this sort of, longer term wave 4. Typically, you'll see these, it's called the law of alternation, where you can see, wave 2 here. If this is a, wave 4 developing, this wave 2 could be, or it's very sharp. So wave 2s are typically sharp. and wave fours are typically lazy. But we did just see a bunch of that up here, a long time, since August. And from prior experience, the longer tops take to develop, and it just seems like it's running away. The valuations are getting picked apart online and stuff, and people are starting to call BS on some of these price forecasts and things like that, especially with unemployment kind of creeping up and inflation coming back. There's just a little bit of tightness out there in the the economy where it wasn't like in spring. So now I think that the producer price index and stuff like that, these companies are absorbing a lot of the tariff costs, but that might not be the case once they know that it's just in place. And I didn't mean to rhyme there, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. I think Susan, you may have mentioned that before, where it's like we're not really seeing a lot of that, like a lot of the crazy price stuff that had been projected like back in April. But I think most of that is just because producers are holding on to those cost increases right now, and they might have some they might have some flexibility with price, especially with all the greedflation and stuff going on, but yeah, I think that's at least it's still a bearish, sort of short-term bearish scenario. But going into October, I wouldn't necessarily discount a bear correction. So with that being said, here, I'm actually going to take a screenshot of this because I want to go back to it later, take a look, do some measurements, do the gains thing. All right, so let me take that out. So what I think you might see is I think we might have seen maybe like the start of maybe like we'll see just a little bit more of an extension beyond like this wave 4, and maybe we can see so like something like this where so let's say you stop Friday like here. Okay, so freehand, yeah, let me back it up here, but let's say you stop Friday afternoon right at this level of support, and then bulls kind of buy it up a little bit to kind of signal that, okay, well, Sunday when markets open up, we're gonna do this thing to the bears, we're gonna squeeze them again, and it's gonna be fun. Well, that might happen, but with a bigger sort of correction, what you could see is like you get everybody to buy that dip again, and then that's where you rip it down after. And this is where I've seen this happen many times, where this is like that sweet spot right here, where like you either end the week right there or you end the day, and then usually get some big buys that come in, or like you can see a lot of options orders, or just volume in general. You can see a lot of that stuff come into the come across the tape, but ultimately what we're looking for here is if it does bounce there. So now we're talking about like 2 steps ahead now, right? I mean, we're only gone just a little bit here. So if this is going to be the start of like a 5 wave, or like a larger correction, highly likely it's going to be 5 waves instead of just ABC. But before I get all happy about seeing 5 waves and stuff like that, it still needs to be confirmed. So I think what's important to notice, or what's important to know, and I've talked about this on the webinars a couple times before, where if we see something like this and it looks like 5 waves or 5 waves down, sorry, it could turn into an ABC. So it could be something like this, especially if it bounces back down at this like this 50 level, so like up here. But yeah, sorry. So for example, you could see just this 5-way pattern repeat like this, and then that's it. Like that's your C leg, and that actually might align pretty well here with like this point of control, and it also looks kind of symmetrical. So by middle of October, we're thinking, I mean, it's peanuts, right? So 5.5%. But if you really want to see like a big correction sort of forecast, odds are they would want to try to retrace it. So something like this. So you'd see like a higher, like a wave 2. Typically they stop at like the 0.618, and I'll pull up the Bitcoin chart because that one looks really good. Sorry, let me 1 second pull up the Bitcoin chart. So what I'm talking about here is like what's happening with Bitcoin right now, where it's got this kind of slow, steady, this slow, steady sort of wave two, and this is like right on the money here for a 0.618 pullback. So you can kind of see it's just right there, and it bounced down. So for now, at least it looks like it's started this sort of wave three descent. But if we kind of translate that back to equities, we want to see like a series of like a continuing series of wave fives or five wave setups. So you would see something like an ABC up here, and then you would see just a really fast monster 2%, 2.5% kind of sell day with this stuff. So when you zoom out, you guys start to notice that these patterns are repeating themselves. So like this is really just a small microcosm up here of this wave four test. Now typically, when you study wave theory, they'll tell you that there's they'll tell you that the wave fours of the prior higher degree. So these assuming this is a wave four bottom, like these right here are technically like the wave four lows, and if those are breached, then most likely it's going to be like an ABC correction. But if they're not breached and you kind of get support and bounces like that, then you can expect something like a five wave sort of correction that could be a little bit more serious. So I guess that's really like I think probably the next couple weeks we're going to find out whether it's in actual correction or not, a wave four and remains bullish, or we're going to turn into like a longer term sort of correction here. I think what we could see that would be a little bit more meaningful for everybody. So instead of just a little 5% blip kind of thing here, let's see. Okay, so that's a little better. It's like almost 9%. But I think what we're going to want to see here is longer term. If we do see that, highly likely we'll see some sort of other like bigger correction like this, where you could see. I mean, it's gone up enough where I think probably like a 20% or even 30% is likely. So we'll just model out like a 20% here. So 20% still takes you back only just to May. So isn't that ridiculous? So that, I mean, I know there's a lot of fibs, fib drawings and stuff here. Let me get this out of here. But the long story short about like how I'm thinking about this is, and I would also encourage you guys to think about it the same way, and also challenge it, which is like there's a bunch of different patterns and things that can form. Like this one is just showing the easy layup here where it's like a head and shoulders, and it looks symmetrical. And we also spend a lot of time here at the top, but it also gives a little bit of a correction so we don't end the year or year three 20% plus for gains. But you also get this this sort of distribution pattern which lasts like 6 months. And once all those shares are offloaded and once that economic news really starts to bite, then you could see something like this. But if you're looking at this like if you're looking at this at a higher time frame, like that's still it's still kind of like less than half. And you can kind of see like how these things are starting to align now. Like you get these, like the point of control that just popped up, like right at that 20% correction. You're right at that volume shelf. That's not really an accident. I mean, you're also looking at something like a, megaphone pattern here, which just happened to reverse right at the top. Like it's not convenient. It's just how it works. Especially when when 95% of all shares are traded with algorithms. So I'll stop there. I don't want to like keep going, like, cause it's just a series of 5 waves that you might see, or it could be ABCs. So I don't want to speculate too much, but I think that if this is the start of an actual correction, it should be a good one because we've had a lot of, this, distribution up here. We've got some erratic volume. We've got some weird economic news. We've got, unilateral decisions on weird things. It's just lots of stress and some of that like systemic risk that market makers have. Any questions about equities and the charts like that.
I had a question.
Yes.
Okay. You had those two boxes on the screen before.
Mhm.
They weren't pennants, but they were kind of like the same idea. Usually, when you have that, the midpoint between them is like a halfway point of the whole move.
Mhm.
So I was just wondering if you measured from the bottom to that midpoint between the two boxes, and then put it on top, and where does that take us to?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understand. Let me see if I can.
Okay, so the
Are you talking about
midpoint,
these?
you have the midpoint between those two boxes is, I can't read it there, but whatever that, let's say around that red line.
11, 24, 87.
This one, the 50.
Yeah, right there. So is that 50% of the whole move that we had?
Yes.
So that's pretty accurate then. So basically, that midpoint turned out, if you would have projected, oh well, they got two pennants, it's going to go up to
Yes.
another whole move from the midpoint. That's right around where we got to.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. And another way you can forecast that out.
Thank you.
And sorry, I think I get it now. So this whole thing, even though it does look like like a 5-wave setup, like this, and this is where I think a lot of people that do Elliott wave counts, they get pretty tied up in the weeds. But I think you can still kind of make it fit if you want to talk about like an ABC sort of pattern. And if you look, if you look back here with this megaphone sort of thing, oops, sorry, jumping all over the place. But if you look at a megaphone, you can still chart out here. Here, let me take this out because this is actually it's actually a really good point. So let me do that. Let me show you what this could potentially be. So I'm not a huge fan of megaphones. I think that they're usually not. It's usually not the right kind of pattern. Just with the expanding sort of mantra that they have. So usually you see those 5 connection points, and I'll just use your ABC. So you've got these up here, and you've got this termination up here. So I think what you could see, because all these would be ABCs, and this would be like a truncated one. So that's the only way that those that pattern can actually be invalidated, or not invalidated, but confirmed really, is with a higher C leg, which we did see by like barely an inch. So I think probably what we could see in support of that is something like an ABC. So and this would be like your like the final move where you would see that that bottom level punch through. So this is, I mean, I think it's a really good it's a really good observation, I guess, where you could see like this, these little ABCs within. And that's it kind of ties back to what I was saying in the beginning, which is it really depends on whether it bounces here or here. And those are kind of like the two major levels that I would expect to see a lot of resistance with. So I guess to kind of tie it back here with your question, I think that there's many different types of patterns that this could end up being. So this is why I think it's been tripping up a lot of the the analysts and the financial community, just because you can make a lot of these counts, or like you can still fit all these ABCs within here, and that works. That doesn't invalidate it doesn't invalidate one of these 5 waves that I showed you before. I'll make sorry, there's a lot of drawings on here now. But hopefully that makes sense. Like, it doesn't necessarily invalidate that there could be another wave up. And I think that's maybe part of the plan, to try to trick people into buying and thinking that there's another leg up. Because it's worked every other time, why wouldn't it work now? So I kind of think that it, it's like, in the eye of the beholder here, whether this pattern is shouting, we're done. Now that we've kind of touched the top, I think or like touch the top of the trend line. If we do violate the trend line, like on a retrace and we go higher, or like, make a new high, then I think that, we could see that like blow off top that we've been talking about for a while now. But I would also make the argument that I think we've pretty much already seen a blow off top. I mean, it's gone up 7.8% here in just a handful of days, and it's one of the most seasonally, like the worst month in the entire year. So, I mean, October is bad too, but September is typically bad. So yeah, I think that it's entirely plausible for a scenario. I'm personally, I'm kind of leaning on the ABC anyways, instead of like the the 5-wave down that I showed you guys. I just don't know if markets are quite ready to sell off in a big way yet. So I'm thinking that you probably see this like slow, steady, gradual A leg. You get a lot of accumulation, a lot of buying, and then you see this like obligatory rally up here. What I think would be really interesting is if we see like a really, really deep A leg here, and then you see just a tiny little retracement like we saw back in April. Where did that happen? I wanted to say, yeah, here it was. So right here, this is what I'm like. If you're forecasting out like a C leg or like a giant wave 3, you will see something like this where it spends maybe, I don't know, 30 minutes at the market open, where the bulls try to juice the market, and then the bears just shut it down right away. And then it just keeps sliding, keeps going and keeps going. Like that's where, if you deploy a lot of capital, let's say, that Friday or something like that, or sorry, okay, there's that Thursday, and then Friday, you leave it on there, the market opens on Monday, you're dead. So, and you have to cover. So that's kind of what, I'm thinking about here, where we're not even close to that right now, but that's where I'm going to start to call out things like that, where it's like, hey guys, we might actually see strong reversal here. I'm not getting, warm and fuzzy vibes about the price action. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm just trying to kind of cover that stuff. All right. So any other questions about equities? Or move on? All right. So I'll touch on the VIX here. So the VIX has been, something funny is going on with the VIX, guys. So I think that like, the institutions, or, I think when you're selling calls, so for example, like if you're getting close to the top, you're selling calls, you're crushing volatility. Because, market makers have to buy, that kind of thing. There's, they always have to take the opposite side of the trade. So it's like, if you keep seeing buying, the VIX keeps getting crushed. So it's like an artificial way to crush the VIX. But every time you see some sort of, volatility crush, you always see like an explosion of volatility afterwards. So normally it's like that precursor. So it's like you're reading the prologue to a novel or something, you're written by somebody else, where it's, hey, VIX is getting crushed, but at the same time, you can still you can still see it creeping up off the bottom, right? So like it already just, like it did reclaim this, 50-day moving average here. And, now we're also starting to see a little bit more activity. So like during the day today, it was still up. And, if I look at, so if I look at this like sector breadth chart here, we have this, this huge divergence. And normally when you see those types of divergences, like you get, it's kind of like a warning shot, like a couple days left, and then all of a sudden you get, like a big sort of, move with the indexes. But with VIX, it kind of happens all at once. So it was encouraging to see UVIX that was up, at least or like earlier on in the day. And when I started to see that, the strong selling, I was getting happy about it, because we haven't seen bears push through levels like that in the last couple months. So I think, Don, I think you're right with your observations earlier today. I think it's starting to look a little bit more shaky, I guess, like the structure is kind of deteriorating a little bit, like throughout the day. So I think for a let's see here. So on August 1st, what happened there? So August 1st had a big jump, and that was just I think that was just a little bit of a sell. Yeah, okay. So we only had, I think it was maybe like 2 or 3%. So with that August 1st, yeah, so it wasn't bad. You know, we had like 2 days in a row that were two some percent. So it was really like net 4, net 5%. And the VIX shot up. You know, the VIX shot up a ton. And again, it's all about the speed. You know, like people weren't expecting, oh, sorry, August. Like people weren't really expecting that. They're just expecting markets to go up, right? So we get this July. So in that 2-day time span, VIX is up almost 50%. So if you think about something like that from, you know, let's pull up UVIX. So UVIX, it's a sad looking chart, but UVIX itself. Sorry, I wonder if this is log. Yeah, okay. So if I put it on just regular here, you know, back in August, you saw it rip up here 33%, right? So if we, you know, let's say we get a more protracted sort of, like a more protracted sort of, like a longer term, or like a longer term kind of buy, or sorry, like a longer term sort of sell off. So that takes you back up a little bit. It's definitely not like your 25s, 26 or whatever. But if you look at this when you zoom out, that'll compound on itself. So you get this. I mean, if you're looking at, you know, back in April, I mean, it's just been deteriorating, you know, since then. But you know, if you also look at the volume down here, you're starting to see, you know, a lot of buys. You saw a lot of buying going on right here in August 1st. So August 1st, I'm thinking, you know, everybody's starting to freak out with that. Well, you know, you still get that 33% appreciation, but if you do get this sort of protracted move, you know, you get, let's say 2 days, 33%, you know, you get another one for there. And let's say you get a pullback and then you get like a real wave 3. I mean, that could put you back up to 28, you know, 30. I actually don't think that that's unreasonable at all. You know, your last, because it's still, you know, 2x leveraged. So you get a 10% move kind of day in the VIX and you get 20% like in UVIX, because your forward curve is going to increase in volatility as well. So it's just kind of just taking a look at that. Like, you know, it might seem like all hope is lost here for the UVIX position, but I just don't think it. I think it's just another, you know, bull trick to trick people into buying shares at the top. I think it's just, you know, it's just a temporary thing. You got to just kind of wait through it. There are different strategies, of course, like you could dollar cost average all the way down here. But I think, you know, most of us have a sizable position with UVIX. So it's probably not good to continue to double down unless you see like massive selling. But I think, you know, in general, I do think that we are getting pretty close here to some sort of major top. Like, you know, if I just take off all the, drawings and stuff, like, I mean, this is huge. And if I put it on like a log chart, you guys can see how truly ridiculous this last move up has been. So that's kind of my initial assessment here. So I do think we'll get some volatility pretty soon, and I think that it's going to happen like all at once, and then all of a sudden we're just going to see a bunch of red days, and people are going to start to have different opinions about where the market's going. I also think too that some of the analysts they just don't want to be wrong again, so they're not making bearish calls, or they're just complaining about how high the market's going and it's being ridiculous. So that's just my opinion on the matter. But anyways, so any questions about VIX, about UVIX, potential for that? All right, cool. Let's talk about Tesla. So Tesla has been weird. It's been kind of an odd trade. It definitely looks like a short squeeze, because when this has been, you know, when I was charting this all summer, you know, it was doing nothing but just gravitating back and forth with, it's just gravitating, you know, going up a channel, making a triangle, doing whatever, you know, but then all of a sudden, you know, the channel now increases in its duration and size and scale. So you get this sort of outsized move here, but now you start to see, so, okay, one second. So if you do this like ABC sort of drawing here, just from a measurement perspective, let me go up a pin. So we see, I want to make sure I get my origin point right. There you go. So pretty close to that. So you could you could see this increase here to like 463, but I don't really know if that's going to be realistic. I'm kind of thinking here that if I do a whole fib on the last A leg here, I think this is just probably one giant B wave. It's just taking forever, like everything else. So this one here, I was kind of thinking, okay, we'll have a reversal at this like 0.786, but you also do get some pretty decent reversals at this 0.886 level. So for example, this like kind of where it's stretching out right now, I could see a situation where you might have to wait a couple days, but you could see something where this is like an ending diagonal that's developing, where you could see. So I mean, this is just like consolidating. You can kind of see the volume, but I definitely don't think that this is like a bullish sort of thing. I mean, this is kind of like a ending pattern. So you might see like a an ABC kind of thing. Sorry, not ABC, but you could see like a like a 5-wave sort of termination where your top is at like the 455 or 456 level. I think probably just saw like that. Sorry, it's actually a wave 4. So it's something sort of like this. I think that's probably going to be your top of Tesla if it does go that far. So I just wanted to keep that in mind here, as because like if all the other equities start falling off a cliff, like there's no way that Tesla is going to be the only one standing alone. So I think that this is definitely, if you look at all the volume here, there's definitely like a short squeeze to push through all the resistance. But then you get to the point now where now you're starting to see elevated multi-hours here where it's just red and selling. So whoever's did all the buying down here to push it up, they're probably taking profits and probably are preparing to short it. So any questions there? None? Wow. I covered the whole thing, huh? Cool. All right. Let's talk about gold. So Don, as you mentioned, I do agree with you that this gold party, I think, is coming to an end. So this looks like a pretty clear, like a 5-wave sort of pattern. The 5th wave here did extend, and they typically do with like metals and commodities. But then if you zoom out here, this just really reminds me of equities right now, where you get this long-term wave 4, and then you get that breakout, but you also had some of that stuff on the way up. So I could illustrate here that this looks like a really, really long wave 3, and then now you get a wave 5. But I think that there's still a possibility here that you'll probably get like an extension up to like the 3,900, but probably not now. I think maybe what you see is something maybe more like this, kind of like equities, right? Where we're not sure yet if we're going to actually have a we're not sure yet if we're actually going to have a wave 4, or it's going to be like the actual start of like a longer term correction. So I think that metals, yes, they will retreat, and most likely they'll test, let's say, like the wave 4 bottom, kind of like we were talking about before. So somewhere around there. And then that's kind of where it either sucks in more buyers and just keeps selling, or where it might actually bounce. But these extension levels here, when you draw these fibs, I've found that if they don't stop exactly at this like 261.8, usually they extend up here to like the 423 extension. So I guess in order of probability, it's usually 1.618 and then 2.618 for a wave 3, but they can often extend up to the 423 extension level, and those are frustrating, especially if like you're trying to short equities. But there's no reason why you can't see something like this happen, where this is actually. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah, there's no reason why you can't see, or why we couldn't have like let's say we have a deeper wave 2, and then we have like a wave 3 up, small wave 4, then we have like a wave 5 kind of thing. So that would be like our final extended 5th wave. So yeah, that's just something I've been kicking around in my head here. But I actually kind of think that silver has a good, sorry, 1 second. Yeah, silver's actually got I think a more encouraging chart. So if you kind of tie it back to gold, like I don't think that it's going to make it up here to this like 47 range, but it might. So I don't want to discount that. I mean, you could make the argument that you could see like a back test here of the breakout area for silver, and that's kind of like what I was thinking with gold too, where you get a retreat back here. You kind of test where this, where we just had this last big old rally. But yeah, so for silver, that's kind of like the same sort of thoughts, where we do have this like 5-wave pattern here, which looks pretty obvious. And yeah, you may get a pullback. Like you might see something like something like this for metals. But I do think that you'll be able to see if there's a lot of buying activity, and usually it's going to coincide with what the treasuries are doing. So if we get some pretty hot, PPI, CPI data, that kind of thing, you'll probably see, yields rise, but then also you also see like gold and silver and stuff rise. But I think that we still need some sort of retreat here, and likely that's going to be with, equities as well, since equities and metals seem to be kind of trading in tandem. So, okay, so that's kind of it. Any questions, comments, concerns? Anything I didn't cover you guys wanted to cover?
I'm good.
Okay, I got a minute or two here. Yeah, oil was surprising today. I kind of thought you would see like a quick stab down and then a rally up, but now we're starting to see a lot of that buy volume down here. So it kind of signals to me that bulls are ready to shoot up the price, and kind of looks like with gas. In my opinion, you would have seen a lot of like high volume over the last couple of days, but it kind of seems like the sellers are running out of ammo. I've got this 9 count here for the DeMark indicator set to weekly, and that's kind of showing that, all right, it's time to buy, that kind of thing, where you see these like 813s up here. These are like combination patterns. So if you don't follow DeMark indicators and things like that, just at least be aware that there's a system, with a bunch of counts, and it counts exhaustion. So these 813s that you get in, I think I got one. Where was it? I got a chart somewhere that showed it. Yeah. So for example, like you can see here, like this B wave top at like this 42,500. That's where you got a 813, and it just, there you go. Then it sells off after. I think I saw something like that. Anyways, I don't want to bore you to death with it, but like you got an 9 count up here for Nvidia. So buyers are getting tired. You got something like that for Bitcoin, SOX. Let's see here. But yeah, so gas, when I get a buy signal, that's usually correct. And with oil, now we got a buy signal here, but that was back in August, or late August at least. So with that being said, yeah, I'll see if I can find it. It's probably on another chart. But anyways, let me know if you guys have any other questions. I'm happy to answer those. And I guess I got time for like one question or something if you guys have one. Speak now, if you ever hold your peace. Cool. All right, guys. Well, good luck for the rest of the week here. I'll update everybody where I can, and I'll try to stay on top of it, because I feel like this is going to be a pretty interesting week. We only have really like 2 days left, but at least it's going to inform next week, I think, whether we're going to see like a brief rally or a continuation of a rally, that kind of thing. So yeah, I guess don't forget to have fun too. It's part of why we're doing this, right?
And thanks a lot.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you later. See ya.